Well, hi everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube art tutorial channel. Well, hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube art tutorial channel. I've recently returned from a lovely cruise around the Mediterranean on the beautiful Sky Princess ship, and while on the route, I decided to do some sketching with the view to bringing them back to my studio and paint a full-blown painting of them using reference material that I collected while travelling around the Med. And the first one, well, it wasn't the first one I actually painted, but that's the first demonstration or a version of that. I'm going to demonstrate actually painting the cruise ship itself, the Sky Princess. Beautiful ship. I've only caught the front of it on that sketch, little line and wash that I did in Vigo, looking across the harbour. But I've now put that down onto my watercolour paper, a drawing of the complete ship, and with the harbour wall and one or two figures to give a bit of scale really to the ship. So I hope you enjoy watching. Now I've completely damped the sky area, but I've picked around the cruise ship itself because that needs to remain white paper at this stage. Just checking that I've not got any runs there that are going to go too out of control. There we go. So that's nice and damp. Right, going to have some light colour, and by light I mean warm colour coming in from the right hand side, just purely to give that bit of sort of warmth to the whole thing, sort of like an orangey warmth that quite often see, and the light will be coming from the right hand side, so that fits very well. Nice bit of warmth there in the sky. Just going to put a touch of yellow in there too. There you go. One or two little bits off the brush, but I'm not worried about that. Then I'm going to put some red in, because this will give a little barrier between the yellows and the blues that are going in next. And I'm going to put that in at the top there too. I'm even going to streak a bit in there. There you go. May as well, while we have it, may as well use it. There you go. So that's the first initial wash in the sky. Now in the distance here, we've got quite a cool blue land really, and I need that to be left white, quite uneven. I'm actually going to bring it above that bow area there, because that's the distant land that, not sure where that is. And I'm adding, so it's raw sienna being added to that blue mix, and now I've got the raw sienna, I can then work that down, and I've a good mind to leave these lines for the mooring lines, because I just feel that would be nice to have them light against the dark background of the land, of course. Then that comes down there like that, and that finishes right there. Make it stand up just as if we've got some land, and that finishes right on that edge there. Try and keep that quite straight. There we go. Don't need to be too thin, so long as we can see them, that's fine. And I'm actually dropping in a little bit of red because there was some buildings there, so I want to show that, not in any specific form, but there are some buildings on the edge there. There we go. And that finishes that. Now for the water, I'm going to use a weak wash of this blue, because that's not the finish of the colour, but that is just a weak wash of colour onto the water. It just sets the scene for what is to come later on. Okay, so what I'm doing is just using that blue. It may have a little bit of yellow in there, and I've got to pick up where, because although it's moored, it's not against the any land. There's two mooring areas there that stand in the water. Well, actually there's three, one there. Consequently, we need to paint in the water in that sort of manner, and what you do across there, you need to do across here, and that goes across there like that. Make certain we get it fairly straight there, and we go like that, and whoops, not around that corner, around that corner. I'll mop that away shortly. That's quite an error there, but no problems. And now I'm going to paint across there like that. I'm going to leave, if I can, the heads of the figures there that we can just about see unpainted. But that's that. And then as I come into the foreground, I'm going to add a little raw sienna to that, just to give it a bit of depth. See how that colour picks up a slightly stronger tone. A bit more there, a bit more raw sienna. There we are. Give it a much more dense water feel, which is what you'd see in the foreground of this lovely Mediterranean coastline. Now I've mixed a rather cool grey for the wall itself. That's just a red, yellow and a blue, because the three primaries give you the desired grey, which it's a good thing to remember that. If you want a grey, just mix the three primaries together. And hey ho, there's your grey. And I'm just picking around. I'm still trying to use this large brush, because at the moment I don't want to get into anything too detailed. And I don't think I will by using a large brush. Notice I'm trying to leave a bead of white paper on top of the wall, because to me that'll give that a lift. Can obviously take it away, but once you paint it over it, it's not as easy to remove. So I like to leave that, particularly at this stage of the painting process, gradually working my way down. Don't want to make this a long demo, but initial washes, be surprised once we get everything together, it will come up pretty quick. Right, now we work along, around that figure again, and the bench. We may as well go around the bench, I think. Just losing the white there, but I want to hold the width of the, or the height of the wall, so that we will have to lose the white there, but it's not a major problem. You know, you have to go with the flow really of what you have. And that's it. Right, and then that goes out into the water. I'm showing both actually that's the side of the wall, right? And as that comes forward, I'm going to introduce a little more red just to give it a bit more warmth, but obviously you end up with a wide sort of feel. And then the sunlit side will be weaker and perhaps with a slightly different red in that. There we go. And immediately you begin to see the difference between the wall that's in sunlight and the top of the wall that's just away from the sunlight, just lifting off so as it doesn't bleed too much. Always nice to be quite light where you need it. And that is that. Now I can't wait to get the Sky Princess sort of logo really, I suppose, in on the bow of the boat. And to me that colour is just ultramarine blue. So we've got to, and I'm painting this in with this brush that points fairly well, because I want that to pick out, and I think that's probably about the right colour for Sky Princess logo that's on all of their ships. There we go. Now if I can lean on that, I can get just a little bit of white to start with, but then it comes into the blue completely. There we are. Right, okay, so that goes up there. I'm to just refer to my notes just to see that I'm getting this right, because that does need to be correct. I'm trying to remain white paper for that area there, which is the lines of the mooring lines really. Maybe darker later, but we need to analyse that at a later date. There you go, look at that. And just a bead of white there, just for the sake of that. Yeah, that's okay. And then reload the brush. I'm coming around there, and that's underneath this. There is an opening there. They always open that up when they're in port, and I haven't quite worked out why at this stage. And I'm painting over the lines here for no more reason than I've overpainted them anyway. So and that comes around there like that, and underneath there, down there. I think that's pretty much captured that. Yeah, there we go. Right, now we do this area here. Reload, must keep the brush well loaded. Oh, it goes up to a point there, okay. Okay, and then it comes around. There is a face of like a figure, face of a figure there. Like that. Then it goes around for the chin. I've probably got that pretty well captured. Right, now we can continue with this. That was the tricky little area. Just bringing that down to there. Right, okay. Sweep that round and down and back up. There we are. Reload the brush again. Vital that this is kept damp to keep the flow of paint, colour onto the paper. Pulling that colour down and oh right, yeah, so that hooks down like that, and that then heads down in towards the water line, but it doesn't go right to the water line. Quite enjoying this. This is not something that I do very often. Well, actually, ships, liners like this, I've never done really anything specifically like this. So it is new to me. But I've done cars which are of a sort of similar sort of structure, sort of metal feature, which to make certain I get this right, which is, you know, got to get a grip of the shape when you're doing any sort of metal object, really. That's what I like to do when I'm painting. I like to relate what I'm painting to something I've painted before, because that gives you an idea then. You think, well, yeah, to get the shape of a metal object that I did, I needed to do that. And you think, right, well, I'll do the same here and should work out. So that's basically the principle. And there you have it. And we're leaving that because that is the white of the, there's three areas that the boat has to moor on. But there you have it. How do I paint all those windows? Well, I've toyed with lots of ideas, but this is one that I've just come up with that I'm hoping will give me the desired result. Right, I've opened the brush and I've lightly damped the hairs of a flat. And what I intend to do, take away a lot of the moisture from that. And this is what I intend to do. I'm going to lay my mill stick down. Let's just see the height of that, right? So, okay. So we pick it up somewhere there and we just run that right up to the front. And we do the same there. And we just push a little harder as we're running out of paint. And that pretty much finishes there. There we go. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that gives us the sort of desired result. It's got to be modelled, obviously, to a large extent, but, and I've put a little bit in there because a lot of that there is going to be, it's the white of the paper that you've got to leave. So I don't want to cover too much of that over. Very delicate piece of painting that. Now I've got to watch here because I'm going to start putting in some window work, and this is for the bridge. Delicate sort of operation this. That sticks out like that, comes back underneath, that goes round the corner like that. There we go. So that's that part. Now I'm going to indicate some windows here. Now, as I've said before, I'm not counting them. I think I said before. So, oh, they actually stand vertical there. That's all right then. Yep, should know that. There we go. So that's that. Then we have another one there. So these I'm showing with a little bit more sort of detail, really. And yeah, we come down here. Yeah, that's suggestion. See, this is what you have to do. You have to suggest and not paint everything in. Because if you do, this is not a photographic study. This is not an architect's drawing, if you like. This is an impression of what I saw on that quayside. It's my impression, and in effect does in effect give me a little bit of license to pretty much suggest things how I need to, really. There we go. Now all I've got to do now is keep me working my way back, but as I get into the area of jagged textured work, I can create a little less detail. Now we have suggestion here. How high up does that go? Oh right, that goes up to there, and that slopes back there like that. That slopes back there. That goes round to there. Bit more, a little bit more required. That's better. A little bit more sort of detail required there. It's okay. That's good. Yeah, and we're coming to the lighter area, which is fine. And then this is where we begin to line up the whole thing, so we can see where it turns around the corner. It's very impressionist. That's what I'm looking to achieve. Just straightening these lines up just a touch, leaving plenty of white, and now dotting through to try and give the impression of cabins or balconies, if you like, because that's what they are. Go. Look at that. Just soften that. It's a little bit harsh. There you go. Look at that. I mean, any brush would do for this, but I do favour this rigger because it's not too fierce. It's a bit more gentle. And there you go. That's the way I will produce these windows from now on. I have drawn in just a little bit closer so that you can see a little bit of the way in which I'm attending to these. Gradually trying to lose them. You know, so they're there, but of a suggested nature. Pull them in like that. There we go. And that's all I'm going to do for those. Just keep working my way along the ship, producing less and less as I go. And that to me gives me that feeling of windows or balconies without the need to suggest or paint all of them. Well, as you can see, I've put in some details, just got a couple more to produce, or a few more to produce. There is some windows here on the bow of the boat. There, like that. Can get these the right angle, because if I don't, it won't look right. I don't want to have to remove them. Whether we would, whoops, don't want that one. Whether we would see them there. Not so sure about that, but anyway, we'll leave that at that. Now we're going to pick up a couple of figures. Put that one in quite a warm colour initially, like that. Is there any other? Right, put a bit of yellow with that now, just to give it a slightly different colour for that figure there. There we go. Now I'm putting a blue with this, so it's all a matter of changing colour really, to try and get the feeling of figures without the real need to paint every single one in. Like the one in the foreground needs to be fairly warm, but I don't want that to overpower the ship itself. So let's just put that in a sort of a light red colour. Walking their dog, that figure there. So that's interesting. That's good. Now Oh, we've got a figure there that's very dark. Very, very dark. Just using a bit of, unusual for me, but a little bit of Payne's grey there. Bit of a bluey grey is Winsor Newton Payne's grey, but it comes in handy occasionally. I tended to use it a bit more now than I used to, for no reason other than ring the changes really. This figure is in a little bit of a bluey, light blue tone, and that's similar blue for the jeans of this figure, who's sitting there like that. There we go. And that's the foot on the ground. That's okay. Now the faces are quite tanned. Those are looking towards us, those are looking away. This one is half facing us. The rest are dark haired, so we'll use a brown. We'll just use a red and a blue. That's good enough for the dark sort of colour that we're looking for the hair on that figure. Like that. And that figure there, they're all looking out towards the ship, as quite a few did on this on the boat, on this jetty. They've all sort of come along to have a look and see what go. That's those. Oh, and that figure there, can we ring the changes with that figure? Let's bring a little bit of this blue in. There we go. Look at that. That's nice. Some of these I think were wearing shorts, so that may be interesting to put in legs, maybe ladies, quite likely. There, and this one is going to be black or very dark shorts on that. In actual fact, just going to bring that down like that. That's not the right angles. That's better. Right. Okay, oh, the benches. Right, now this is of a brown. I'm actually going to use burnt sienna for this. A nice brown, nice rich brown colour, which quite liked really. Do want to show that. It needs to be a lot lighter than that, so let's lift that away. A lot of people say when you paint with watercolour that you can't sort of fix anything. Well, you can if you just know a bit about what you're doing really. Right, the dog. What? Let's just be dark brown. Right, burnt umber, bit of burnt sienna in there. So I'm not really sure what sort of dog this is. You'll have to make your own mind up on that. If you think it's a dog, I mean, who knows? Highly unlikely to be a cat, but there you go. you know, give the legs a little bit more length, because I've given it quite a big body, that. So let's try and enlarge on that. Anyway, that'll do for a dog for me. Good. Well, this is where the fun part starts. The shadow, I've put in some little touches and bits and pieces, but let's get into the shadows. And the bridge itself, because the sun is coming more or less across there, we do have a shadow that sort of like sneaks under there and just slides through and just a little bit under there. So that does work quite well. Down the side of that, we're putting a little bit more onto that. We got anything here? You may have some little touches there. And here and there. And there and here. I mustn't put them in just for the sake of it. Go in a bit darker with that area there. And that area there. That's the lovely the big screen, basically. Now, some of these areas are under, sort of like under a shade there, so they are a little darker than the rest. So that's interesting. Adds a bit of interest to them, doesn't it? There. Now we have a shaded area here. And I'm just putting a bit of shading down there, because we do have something going on down that side. Right, now we have shade under here, like that. It's all about shadow now. And those of you that have seen my work before appreciate that my work is all about shadows. And if you can get them right, you've got a chance underneath those boats and all. Look. Always a place where shadows are formed. That's it. And do we have shadows there? Yeah, we do actually. Which aids the feeling of depth. There we go. This is the area that will make or break this picture, and I'm hoping it will make the picture and not break the picture, because that would be a disaster, to say the least. Yeah, there you go. Let's just bring a little bit more shadow under there, like that. There we go. And we've also got to have a little bit of shadow under that area, just to make it look sort of a bit more depth, really, you know. As I say, this is just my impression, so let's not get all hung up about whether it is absolutely perfect. Right, now what I've got to do, got to delicately, and this is quite a delicate little process now, to get this lovely blue shadow, not too strong, because of the shape of the bow of the boat. Then we get a soft edge. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to damp that and run a shadow into that. And that's got to be painted in extremely quickly. There we go. So we can actually see, there we go, look at that, the turn of that part of the boat. Yeah, we can. Yeah. I think I'm trying to convince myself, but there you go. I think we can. Yep, and then of course this dark area continues along where the boat sits in the water there. It's not the quay, it's the water there. Then we have shadow on these mooring portals, or whatever we call them. There we go. And then this goes around the corner, so there's a shadow there. I'm also going to elaborate a bit by putting a shadow on to the roofs of these areas and down the back edge of that, to give that a sense that that's in shadow. This one too, that one as well, just using a bit of my artistic license here to give a sense that we do have shadows or sunlight on these buildings. Yeah, I think that probably does it, and it probably is, possibly, maybe, we'll see. But there you have it. Little touches there, little bits of dark area. Yeah, there's some little dark areas along this quay here where that stands. There we go. Perfect. Now we have some dark areas where these, I suppose they're sort of like chimneys really. There. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to create a shadow in the foreground. Some of you there again would know my style and realise that this is not unusual for me. I've damped again, and I've just run in to that damp area, so where the figure's legs are, the underside there, into that area, a shadow colour. There we go. And what it's from, what it is, not really worried, to be fair. Nice and dark, and that then runs up and across there. Well, people may say to me, well, there's nothing there that would cast a shadow like that. Well, there is now. And I'm hardening up a couple of edges here, just for the fun. Right, now this figure then would be in half shadow. So the shadow would cast around there like that. I love doing this. Casting shadows, figures in half shadow. leaving just some little glimmers of light on the legs. At this stage, we'll see how that goes. Well, actually, we're not going to. That wasn't going good, so we decided not to. Right. And the dog itself, that has to have, it's quite dark anyway, so that's okay. Right, now that figure there would cast a shadow. These figures there would cast shadows. In actual fact, I'm having the sunlight coming from the right in the end, which, sorry, from the left, that is a bit different to what I stated at the start. And the head shows up the wall there. Might as well have that. Good. Yeah, that's more or less what I would have anticipated at the start of this painting process. Just a little bit of casting of shadows here and there just make all the difference to the overall feel of it. There we go. Yep, let's just soften that. I want to soften that a little bit, just to give a rounded shape to that figure. There we go. Rather than just a solid. Right, so that's now I'm just going to paint in a very weak wash onto the rest of this here. Purely because it's not as bright as that. It's very, very weak wash of colour. It's a blue. Like that. Finishes like that. That's better. Perfect, look at that. We're going to show just a little turn to that because it does have a turn there. So that's worth putting in. Yeah. We only have finishing touches to do. Well, the final thing I need to do before this is completely finished is to put in a suggestion of more windows, particularly at the front or the forward part of the ship. So all I'm doing, I'm shaping the brush and just dropping them in like that, and that will give an impression that we have windows there. I'm not counting them, I'm just putting a few in, and as I go further back I'm actually using less and less detail. Well, there is the finished painting with all the windows in, and yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed painting that. If you've enjoyed watching, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Colinsteedart on YouTube. Take care and happy painting.